We've now been able to catch our form data and input it into our database. We've effectively done the create part of CRUD, but there are some problems with it, and I want to look at those over the course of a couple of movies. First, MySQL has a syntax, and it's possible to break that syntax in the same way that we can break HTML syntax or PHP syntax by putting in values that are not allowed or that it can't understand. And one of those that's going to come up is these single quote marks. Now, what if menu name had a single quote in it? Then when PHP constructs the query, it'll drop in some characters followed by a single quote mark and some more characters. And when MySQL reads that, it'll say, oh, quote mark, more characters. Wait, I have another quote mark. So what we need is a way to escape that character, just like we did when we were escaping the double quotes in PHP, when we have double quotes inside double quotes. In the same way that we were doing URL encoding when we were constructing links that would become values in our URL strings. Now, one good way to show you one of the techniques to handle this escaping is to go to phpMyAdmin. So let's bring up phpMyAdmin now. And I'm in Widget Corp. You can follow along if you want. I'm going to go to Pages, and I'm just going to do Browse and select one of the pages that we've done. Let's do Edit of Widget 2000. And the Widget 2000 is a great product. I'm going to hit Return, and I'm going to type, "That's all." I've got now a single quote that's going to be sent, an apostrophe. And I'm going to hit Go to save those changes. I'm doing an update to the database. We'll learn about those in a minute, but it's doing an update command. Take a look at what actually got submitted here for "That's all," though. Take a good close look. We've got that, and then single quote, S, and all. So the way that it escaped it was it put two single quotes together. And that's one of the techniques that we can use. There's another one that we can't see in phpMyAdmin is the backslash. Just like we did with the double quotes inside a double quoted string, we use the backslash to escape it. And in fact, PHP gives us a method called add slashes. Let me show you that. I'm looking at php.net. In the manual, I just did a search for add slashes. And you'll see that if we look at the definition here, it'll tell us it returns a string with backslashes before characters that need to be quoted in database queries, etc. That's exactly what we're looking for. These characters are single quote, double quote, backslash, and null. So those are the things that need to be escaped if they're actually going to be inside our text. And we want to make sure that we always do this kind of add slashes. Now, originally, this was the technique to be able to put things into databases. But PHP has evolved, and there have been some improvements and some changes. One of those was a change that came and then has mostly left us now, and that is the GPC magic quotes. Go ahead and take a look back at that PHP info file. You remember that's back in our PHP sandbox, and it'll give you all the information about your configuration. This is the one for mine. And I'm going to look down here until you find an area that says magic quotes _GPC off. Now, GPC stands for get, post, and cookie. And we looked at that. Those are the three ways that we interact with our user. So what this is going to do is put those quotes there for us. It's going to basically do the add slashes for us automatically. So at some point, they decided this is a good feature. Let's put in magic quotes. Let's teach PHP to do it for everybody, and it'll make it so much easier for users to come in as beginners and use PHP because they won't have to worry about all these database problems that people keep having. But magic quotes ended up causing a lot of problems as well. A lot of people didn't like it. As a result, newer installations of PHP are going to have it turned off. So you could just turn it on, and it'll handle it for you. But as a developer, we want to be able to have code that'll work regardless of whether someone's machine has it turned on or not. That's the big problem is, what if I have magic quotes turned on my machine, but then I install it on a production server or I send it to a friend who doesn't have it turned on and suddenly my code breaks? We don't want that kind of fragility in our code. What we need to do is be able to test what version of PHP we have and handle it appropriately. In newer versions of PHP, they came up with an even better way to handle it. So let's look at that now. If I go back to php.net and instead I search for MySQL real escape string. It's one very long phrase. You'll see that it pops up and it escapes the special characters in a string for use in an SQL statement. This is the new and improved, better way to do it. And you'll see right here, it was introduced in PHP 4.3.0. So in PHP 4, greater than or equal to 4.3.0, we have this MySQL real escape string available to us. And it's one of the MySQL functions. It makes sure that it's ready for MySQL. So that's what we want to use if we have it available. But again, we don't want to introduce fragile code that won't work on older versions of PHP. So what do we do? How do we navigate all of this information? I'm going to show you a function that's going to help you to do exactly that. Let's go ahead and I'm going to just hide that for a moment so I can bring up my functions. Here we are. And at the very top of my functions file, before any of my others, I'm going to paste in my new function. And then we'll walk through it and look at what it does. I called my function mysql_prep. And I think you're going to find this very, very valuable. What it does is it first checks to see, is magic quotes active? And it can do that with a function called getMagicQuotesGPC to see whether or not we have it turned on. So it can actually survey our server and find out what that setting is. That'll be useful because then we can test for it later. Then the next question is, do we have a new enough version of PHP? And the way we test that is by running another function called functionExists, which is, does this function exist? Have we created it yet? Does it exist already in PHP? And it checks for the MySQL real escape string, which was introduced in 4.3. If we have a new enough PHP, then we want to undo any magic quote effects that have been put in. We want to undo magic quotes and use MySQL real escape string instead. So if magic quotes are active, strip out the slashes. And strip slashes is the reverse of add slashes. So we'll undo the effects of magic quotes. In the very next line, we'll use MySQL real escape string. Now, if it's not active, then this doesn't take place. We don't strip out the slashes. We just go ahead and say, yeah, we have a new enough version of PHP. Apply this to it. Now, if we don't have a new enough version of PHP, then it drops down to the else statement. So PHP is before 4.3. If magic quotes aren't on, then we need to add the slashes. If they are active, then it's already added the slashes for us, and we're all set. So this will help us navigate all those possibilities and all those conditions and help make sure that our code uses the best possible way of escaping these values. So now that I've put it in a function, all I have to do is send a value in as an argument, and it'll run all of this on it, and in the end, return back a value that's been cleaned, a value that's been sanitized, and it's ready for MySQL. So this takes all of that grunt work out of it and puts it into one function. And if this changes in the future and there are other improvements, other refinements I want to make, I can do it all in this function. I called it mysql_prep. You could call it something else if you think of something that's better. But this is what I keep using, and it makes it nice and easy for me always to remember what it is. So that's going to be my user-defined function. I'm going to save that into my functions. If you want to pause your movie, if you need to catch up and type all that in, but that's going to be essential for us. We'll switch back now to create subject, and now we know that we can actually apply that function here, mysql prep, and we can wrap all of our values inside of it. That will be a lot better. Let's put parentheses around all of this. There we go. So now, when we bring those post variables in, first thing we do, make sure they're suitable for MySQL. Make sure that everything that needs to be done to them is done, and now we can safely submit them and not break the database. Now, if you want to experiment and try it, you can undo MySQL prep, try and submit some single quotes, double quotes, backslashes into your database, see what results you get, and then you can go in and fix those errors with phpMyAdmin, and then try it with MySQL prep and see what it does. But this should handle it for you. This is often one of the biggest developer headaches, is getting these quotes sorted out so that they submit to the database well. And hopefully, I've navigated you through it in such a way that it won't cause you the same amount of headaches. So make sure you have an understanding of how that works, and we'll move on to looking at the next way we can improve the handling of forms.